I'm calling to a Public Work Committee meeting. Today is Tuesday, July 7th, and it is 10:15 p.m. We are gonna forego the Pledge of Allegiance and minute of silence since we had two already, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and call for Madam Clerk. Can I have a roll call?
Roll call. Chairperson Perella.
Here.
Vice Chair Roman.
Here.
Member Nickerson.
Here.
Also present for the record, Janice Jacoby, Village Clerk, Cristia Lu, Village Manager, Interim Village Attorney Powell, and Councilperson Erbom. You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. We move to approval of the agenda.
I'll
Right?
move approval.
Second the motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So, what does it follow?
Approval of the minutes.
Approval of the minutes of for the March 5th, 2020 Public Works Committee meeting. Any comments? Any?
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Okay, do I have a second? I guess it was second by Council.
Sorry, I'll second. I thought I was
Okay.
unmuted.
Okay, perfect. So we move into the agenda items.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Mr. Chair, for
Go ahead.
the motion to approve the agenda and for the minutes, we do need to say, all in favor say aye.
All in favor say aye.
For the,
Aye.
for
For the approval of the agenda, all in
aye.
favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we go for the approval of the minutes of the March 5th, 2020 Public Works meeting. So all in favor say aye.
All in, aye.
Thank you. Okay, so agenda items. We go with, we have the FDEP amended contract, and that's in reference to the, I let Madam Manager to tell us what it's all about.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairperson Perella. The FDEP amended contract just harkens back to, this item harkens back to a stormwater facilities plan that and flooding vulnerability assessment that was conducted in 2018 by, April of 2018 by Pannoni, an engineering contractor that worked with us for a stormwater facilities plan as well as the septic to sewer project. The purpose was to amend a 2002 stormwater plan for the village. We're looking to really have a responsible way of forecasting and attending to the stormwater issues in the village based on flooding and water supply issues in the village. So the Environmental Protection Agency and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection created a partnership to provide communities with low-cost financing for a variety of water quality infrastructure projects. So we took advantage of that opportunity by taking on this extremely low rate loan to pay for this stormwater facilities plan that was completed. So we're now at the point where it's time to pay that low interest loan back. And the amended agreement before you was actually before council last November and would have, it had gone through committee and would have passed through, but there was an issue with the amount. We had paid early, and that amount had to be reduced from from the contract. So we're bringing it back. We've made the corrections and bringing it back to you as an amended contract that needs to come through your committee so that we can move forward with this. In the documentation, it spells out the biennial payments that the village will make for this stormwater master plan. And I also have with me a consultant who worked with us on this matter with us, Robert Ruano. So if you have any questions, we're here to answer.
Okay, I see Mr. Ruano has his hands up. So I will bring him to the panel. I have no idea. It's first. So did I? There you go. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello. Hello, everybody. You ready?
We're
Yes.
ready.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. I can't see. Okay. I'm trying to get something out of the screen so I can at least talk to you. Okay. So yeah, as the village manager said, this is from an agreement back in 2018 that the village contracted Pannoni and Associates to do a stormwater master plan. And the way it works, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection would pay them. And then after a certain time, they would come after the village to actually pay back the loan at a low interest loan. And as you see, you've got the amortization schedule, you've got everything there. And so basically we're paying, or the village is paying back $175,000 in principal for the stormwater master plan. And the stormwater master plan is very, very important to the village for everything from, complying with South Florida Water Management District, county regulations, going after funds, any sort of grant funding that you're going to do. This sets the stage for you and what you're going to do in the future. And so now it's just an approval to start paying the loan back little by little.
Okay, perfect. So any questions from the committee? Is this something that's already been kind of waiting for the approval and it's been revised and correct based on what we had prematurely paid, right, for the loan? And so do I have the lawyer to read the resolution of the loan?
Yes, I can read the resolution if you want me to read it into the record. Let me put, it's at the end of my PDF. Let me pull it up for you. Oh, actually, it's not at the end of mine. I have to go into my file. Give me 1 second.
There's no nonsense.
So the proposed resolution, Mr. Chair, would be a resolution of the El Portal, Florida Village Council authorizing the village manager to execute State Revolving Fund Amendment 1 to Loan Agreement SW1320LO between the Village of El Portal and the State of Florida Department of Environmental Protection and providing for effective date.
So
So as stated, this resolution, Mr. Chair, would simply incorporate the terms of the amendment as described concerning the balance that's owed on the loan and the capitalized interest. And so in the resolution, you'll see that it has the current unpaid amount, which is in part the unpaid principal, and then the financing rate of 1.16% per year. So once this is adopted, it would also include the attached amended agreement.
perfect. So again, do I have a? So what do we do? What do we ask next?
Well, the next, so Mr. Chair, the next if there's no further discussion, the next step would be simply to ask for a motion to provide or pass this to the full council for its consideration as proposed.
Okay, okay, so do I open it to the public and for discussion? If anybody has anything to say, any questions to the lawyer, to the manager? Yes,
Chair, I
Councilperson?
raised my hand.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't.
It's okay. So my question is, since we're talking about this, where are we with Pannoni before we move
Well,
forward?
this is separate, so this is
No,
for,
yeah, I understand that, but it's sort of the same. It all works together, so.
well, yeah, okay. I thought you should have more clearly of what's going on with Pannoni since you've been sitting on this committee for longer than I have.
Mhm.
So I had just a little, I haven't been able to actually be only briefed on many things, but this is actually separate to the whole, Pannoni project, which is the septic to sewer. That's something totally separate than what we're discussing here. This loan is just for the master plan that it was required, and it was like, yeah, the rest is with Pannoni, which, as far as this goes, this is the loan that we the work that was already been done. So we just been asked to pay the loan as our CFO had already paid last year, I think it was, right, Mrs. Alou?
Yeah, yes, it was just to
Advance, yeah.
pay, since we had to rework our amount, the total amount. But in terms of where we stand with Pannoni, I know that our village attorney, had was the last person who reviewed their remaining work for the
Yeah, whatever remaining work, I'm sorry. Yeah, whatever remaining work we have is, it's totally separate. It's another subject, which is the septic sewer. But what we're discussing here is for this amount that's already due, that being done. The village has the plan, right? The master plan for
Yes,
the water, okay, stormwater master plan, and just have to pay it.
It's
Yes, I know.
unfortunate, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not unfortunately mean that this is a separate subject. So it was delivered. The water, for my understanding, the stormwater master plan. So this is, even though it's related to Pannoni, I don't think it has nothing to do with whatever is pending from them, because that's another subject.
Right, but the project is the same. It's still the same project.
Yeah, the water, the stormwater drainage, the stormwater master plan, and the septic to sewer project is all kind of tied in all together. But yeah, they already did whatever it needed to be done for this particular project, and
Now we're stuck. Okay.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
mean, not stuck. It's already been done.
Mhm.
So it's just now we have the opportunity to go back to the state or whatever, because we already have a master plan that Robert Juan said, and I think he will be a little bit more to answer any of those questions, because he was involved with that. But I guess it's being that the plan is already been done, so we have the opportunity, if there's any, we already, it's just like, it's already been, we have the plan, the master plan, for anything that comes up, and we need funding for any issues we might face. So that's why the master plan was needed, for my understanding.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any more questions? Everything good? Open it to the public. If you have any questions, anybody has any questions, anything? I don't see any hands. So, Mr. Lawyer, what's the next step? Please educate me on this.
You're doing just fine. The The next step would be, if you want to propose something to go to the full commission, that would be the motion that you're requesting. In this particular case, if I'm understanding what the discussion is that there's simply a need for status as to where things are with Pinoni. I mean, that's what I'm getting from at least generally what you all are talking about. I mean, I do understand that you've already passed the proposed amendment to the loan agreement, and then we started talking about where we are with the contractor. So, if you want me to give you an update on that, I can give you that also. Where the last leave
So yeah, let's go ahead and
yeah. Let me just put it generally, because this could be an hour discussion, but the last leave off with Pinoni through its representative Steve Elias was that they came back with an offer for our consideration to complete the work. As the village understands it, at least through the attorney here, there's about 10, maybe to 15% of the work left. However, the proposal they presented, they have stated that the time lag between the initial location of the pump station and now the confirmed location, as reflected in the easement that we've got from the school board, requires them to go back through the staffing process, which is going to incur additional costs and time. So in short, what they proposed back in March was a lump sum total fee of about $90,000 to complete the project. We, through the manager, rejected that proposal because it amounted to almost twice as much as was being proposed less than a year ago when this came up for completion. And so the leave off in that conversation was that you all need to provide a more detailed justification as to why the price is now doubled to complete the work. So we haven't received that back. I mean, since then, obviously we've been, in lockdown. A lot of the access I would imagine that they would have going to the county has been limited, but that's where the leave off is.
yeah, but like I said, this is something a separate subject than from the septic to sewer, nothing to do with the amended contract that we have in front that we're discussing here. Even though it's the same, engineer firm, even though it's
Right, but
Pinoni.
yeah, that's correct. They require two. They require two separate actions, and we've already put the first one to bed, which is going to move forward to the council. So, to the extent that you want to direct again us to go back, I mean, we're still pending them to come back with us for a further explanation as to why the price has doubled. They've generally told us in our last conference call that the reason why it's doubled is because, to use the vernacular, it's stale. They've, had to go back and pretty much go through the same processes to make sure that they can get the same approvals, the same elevations. But that was just verbally. So we asked them to provide a written document justifying the increase in costs, which is still pending.
So we're waiting.
I mean, Christy, Mr. Lee, you were on the call, so if I'm missing anything, that's pretty
Right.
much.
No, nothing. Just that they felt like it was the project lost momentum. To get them back, inspired, they needed more money. So I thought that was ridiculous, and we asked them to put it in writing what they were requesting. We reviewed that with our other engineers, our building officials, cap government. They didn't see there was a need for that amount at all, and had a lot of, took exception to all of that. And actually, we only have 8% left of that design left to go with Pinoni, according to Pinoni, back when they said that on the dais last year when we asked them to stop work. since there was no land, you know, agreement yet. So yeah, like Attorney Powell said, we're just waiting. I mean, he's reached out. We haven't heard anything more because I guess we're not budging on the money, and they aren't either. So that's where we stand.
Does that answer your question, Vice Chair?
I mean, we're sort of where we were in March when we met last.
Right.
And it's July. So that's a little bit concerning. I mean, it's unfortunate that it was a bad contract that we entered with Pannoni. And it's unfortunate that we're sitting here after all this money has been spent and we're only at 8%. So where do we go from here? Do we just wait and then, you know, does this project all of a sudden just stand still? And here we are paying back loans for a project that's just sort of forgotten.
Yeah, okay. Once again, I think you're mixing things over here.
No, I'm not
loan
mixing
that
things. I
Well,
know
like I
I know
said,
what that
you've been
is.
you've been sitting
No,
here for
yeah.
longer
I'm
than
not
I
mixing things up, and I think the
unfortunately haven't been
manager.
able to- Okay, go ahead.
I think the manager and the attorney know where I'm coming from, because of the fact that we, you know, it's been a discussion and it's been a concern,
Right.
and so I understand where we are with what we were discussing and what needs to be passed over to the full council. But it all is, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't because we signed a contract with Pannoni.
Or maybe because of bad decisions that were made, and you know, it's
Yeah.
and not holding you know, anything back to you know, from
Yeah,
you
and
know,
unfortunately, the people that, you know,
and
negotiated this are, no one's here. the chairman's not
and
here, the
also
manager is not here, you know, and neither is a council person. So, yep. But we can't do stormwater without septic to sewer.
exactly, but it was done, so now we have to pay. The Pannoni was paid already, I guess, right? Because this loan is just to pay whatever, you know, they already cashed in. So
Right.
it's I know it's unfortunate and it's frustrating, but we just have to, this one, I mean, just have to, time passes by and prices goes up, and the more we think about it and sit here doing nothing, things are gonna get worse. So we definitely have to get into an agreement with Pannoni. If it's 8%, if it's, you know, it's I mean, even though it sounds like, you know, 80% sounds, I mean, $80,000 sounds a lot. It is a lot. If it's what's holding us to have the full project developed, or, you know, like the deliverables, like the plans or the drawings, we already paid almost 400,000 for my understanding, right? Or over 400,000 because they went over as well in timing and all of that. So in construction, you know, the more you wait, the more the inflation goes, and, you know, it goes by percentage. So whatever had cost us, like, what was it? The first phase, $4 million, might cost us now $5 million, just because of, you know, we waiting to negotiate those $80,000 or $90,000. You know.
And if I could just clarify just one thing, well, maybe a couple of things. Yeah, and I would say this if Pannoni was on the Zoom call. One of the concerns I have with Pannoni, and I articulated it in the call, Mr. Chair, was that they keep moving the ball. And what I mean by that is when we think we have a deal, which was presented almost a year ago, and the council had reached a posture where we were going to entertain settling all of the issues relating to the overages, getting the project done. The item was placed on the agenda, and then we were told, well, guess what? We can't commit to that number because the site may change. So then we had to halt dealing with Pinoni in terms of trying to resolve the issues that were created before all of us were here, really, to then embark on making sure we were able to lock down the site with the school board, which is a protracted process, which we can brief you on that, which we were able to finally do. So once we got that, we then went back to Pinoni thinking that, well, at least they're going to be in the ballpark of what we were discussing now that we've nailed down the site location. And the retort was simply, well, now it's been almost a year. We've got a lack of momentum. We've got to go back in. And then they sent us a proposal, which I just generally described, for twice what we were agreeing to less than 8 months before. So, you know, one of the things that, you know, I will, and I'm sure the manager will support this, is, you know, we certainly don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, but we don't want to be in a position where we can't reach an agreement that they're going to honor. And that's kind of what we're trying to get to with Pinoni. So I would encourage, you know, at least for the next conference call, we'll make sure that you're a part of it, since you're the chair of this committee, and that way you can, you know, be a part of, you know, painfully that process with Pinoni, and hopefully we can get, you know, a fresher participant, someone who comes at it from a different perspective, having not, you know, been, you know, hardened by the whole process, and maybe we'll get to the finish line with them. But I will reach out to Mr. Elias tomorrow to see if we can, you know, get that deliverable back from them. It's been pending, and so we can have that as our starting point for our next conference call with them to try to see if we can get it resolved.
Okay, perfect. Sounds great. And since we're talking about that septic sewer, because there was also a post in the next door neighbor in the media, somebody posting something about the $500,000 we lost as a, you know, as part of the vetoed for the governor from all the projects for Florida, and we were part of that, and one of that was that project septic to sewer. But Mr. Ruano is here. He can probably give us a little more update. But for my understanding, that would not affect the project of whatever Pinoni actually worked for. So this was just an extra $500,000. For my understanding,
No.
it was probably the lobbyist that we have
If-
that was
if I
trying
may-
to.
If I
Okay,
may
go ahead.
tell you, I'm sorry, Chairperson Perella. No, that was for those funds that were awarded from the state but were vetoed by the governor. Those were for Northeast 2nd Avenue septic.
Okay.
That was not for the
Septic
west
sewer.
side. The Pinoni project had nothing to do.
Okay. So that has nothing to do with whatever we can, you know, move forward with this project. We still have, you know, still alive. It's a matter of like completing this 8% that Pinoni is holding.
Right, which maybe,
And
you know, by
for
now
the
maybe
80,000 that
10%.
we're holding for Pinoni.
Well, we'll see.
Right. So, okay. Any more questions? Or Mr. Ruano, I think. Oh, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I did have something to say, but I know Mr. Ruano, his hand was up for a while, so I think we should probably bring him in. But the only thing I wanted to say was, I just want everybody to understand that, like, Pinoni were the first ones to kind of like default on the contract. And I know Councilperson Roma will probably remember this, but in the contract, they had said that before they start any additional work, they would come back to the council. But then they came with a bill that was like, look at all the additional work. And we're like, hold up, how you guys your own contract? You guys said before you do any additional work, you'll come back to the council. So I just want anybody watching this or anything like that to understand that they defaulted on their own contract from the very beginning, and it's just been
exactly. So that's what they were calling the CSA, right? Like contract for that they were mentioning the CSA is a contract for service approval. Like every time they were to do something,
Well,
And they're talking about the 30%, at the 30%, just present the project and then, you know, for approval and, you know, and getting paid for that first 30%, and then at 90% they will present, and then
no.
They
that's
never
what
did
in
it.
the contract, it says in the contract.
No, but they didn't do it according
Right.
to the contract.
Okay.
I know Mr. Arano's hand was up for a while. He might want to come in, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Ryan, yeah.
Oops. All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. No, it was a while ago. So, but I think everything got addressed. But yeah, I would say two quick things on that. The item before you today is just to pay, it's to pay back the state for work that's already been done for a stormwater master plan that we received, was verified and was vetted by other contractors, so it was good product. So in that respect, the work that Pannoni did for the stormwater master plan, we didn't have any issues with. The other contract, obviously, as has been said, has been very different. You know, they did not come to us and say, you know, we need approval, we're going to go past it. As a matter of fact, what they told us, even to the CFO at the time, don't ask us for timesheets, because don't worry about it, because this is a fixed contract. So you don't need timesheets. And Christia remembers that, and the CFO at the time, I'm sure, remembers that. And then they've come up with this. I mean, I think that the Pannoni issue is a bigger issue, and I think at some point you all might need to discuss it privately together. That's all I'll say about that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, unfortunately, we're limited by the Sunshine Law, so the only way
Well, for an executive session,
we're
Mr.
still limited by the Sunshine Law unless there's a pending litigation.
Okay.
Well,
Well, you might at some point.
Well, that's
Yeah, Mrs.
that's kind of why we've been going back and forth, Mr. Chair, with trying to avoid the nuclear option. You know, there's been a lot of work. You know, I think, you know, if we, like I said, at least approach it with one fresher perspective, maybe we might be able to get to some resolution that's acceptable to both sides.
Okay.
Like I said, I will reach out tomorrow and make sure I copy you on the correspondence to Mr. Elias, and same with you, Robert, to see if we can get moving on getting more clarity on what they sent us back in March.
Sounds good. Yes.
Thank you. And that's sort of, this is the dialogue we needed to have with this, because it, you know, number one, Pannoni's not on our agenda for today. And so this is still very important and very pending, and they're all coming together. So yes, the work that they did, thank you, Robert, for clarifying that. It's great work. We understand all of that. But what's pending, you know, they didn't hold up their end of the bargain when it came to their contract. And so the fact that we're still here doesn't show good faith on their part. And so it's a discussion that we need to have, because this is the only place we could have it. And we need to continue to have it, and we need to elevate what we're doing and where we're going next with it. So thank you, Chair and Norman, for agreeing to, you know, talk and go back to them and come together, and Christia. You know, it's been a painful process for all of us. And yes, I'm aware, I've been here through it, but it's important to continue to discuss it and have these discussions,
Yeah,
so
perfect.
that it's not forgotten. So thank you.
Thank you. So, yes. So now, let's, are we,
I can make a motion to bring this
make
to
a
the full
motion to
council.
bring this in full council? Okay. I have a motion
Second that motion, Mr. Chair.
and second by A motion was made by Councilperson Roman. Do I have a second?
Second that motion, Mr. Chair.
Perfect. Thank you. So
Need a roll call, Mr. Chair. If there's no further discussion.
no further discussion. Go ahead.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Member Nickerson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Roman,
Yes.
Chairperson Perella.
Yes.
Stormwater goes to full council.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Your first item passed, Mr. Chair. You're in the game now.
Perfect. Thank you. So now we move to F2, stormwater drain maintenance discussion, right? And we
Yeah.
have Mr. Orlando Rubio.
Yes.
And so if you can, we're gonna bring him in so he can give us a little update. Or Ms. Zalou, you have something to
Well,
say about?
I can just start it while he's
Okay.
getting queued up. Just that you, as you all witness, every time it rains, we have some flooding issues. We are slowly plodding through the effort of stormwater improvements throughout the village, but we have the El Jardín plan that's happening now that Mr. Rubio is assisting us with. He's with Craig A. Smith. He's our engineer that's worked on our stormwater improvement plans. And so the flooding that happened recently at the end of May, we had some issues, but our storm drains were in good condition. Mr. Rubio's company has done inspections of them, and we've had them cleaned in the past. But it's time for us to consider a contractor to come out to do them. And I would like to have a regular maintenance of them instead of always looking at the last minute trying to find someone to do it. Because 2 years ago, right after Hurricane Irma, I couldn't find a person to come out to do our drains because they were working on bigger projects. So I would like to have something in place in case that should happen. And I know that Mr. Rubio can kind of speak about the condition of our storm drains and about the proposals that we received and the one that's before you, which is Shenandoah. So, Orlando.
Sure. Good evening, committee. Well, we, 2018, we were tasked to do the drainage inspections for the stormwater improvements we've done for the village going back as far as 2003 or 4. And we compiled a list of all the structures that we inspected per project phase. We quantified the amount of siltation in each structure that showed up on our inspection, and that is a procedure that is used to comply with the MPDES program that the village is part of.
Yes.
The one thing that hasn't been done is the maintenance. That was something that was supposed to be handled by many managers ago. But it turns out that as we got more involved with the MPDES permit from the village, the feedback from DEP was that they've never seen maintenance records from the village for the stormwater improvements that have been designed for the village. So we did the inspection. We quantified the amount of siltation that we can observe in each drainage structure. And we have that list. For other municipal clients in our past, we have worked with a contractor called Shenandoah. So I gave Christia their contact information to solicit some unit prices to do maintenance. We are familiar with their work, but she also obtained prices from other vendors to make sure the prices were competitive. I believe we got about 2 or 3 prices. And in the end, Shenandoah seemed to have a better price from the Flowtech. Is it Flowtech?
Flowtech. Right on.
They were given an opportunity to revise their proposal based on the inspection report that we had. I don't believe they saw or used that inspection report, but once they did that, their prices came down from 44,000 to almost 16,000. But nonetheless, they were still higher than Shenandoah.
Right.
And we're familiar with Shenandoah's work. I mean, they worked with us in Golden Beach. They worked with us in Delray Beach, and I believe in Lake Worth as well. So it's a good outfit. So their price to do the stormwater maintenance is it's pretty competitive, and we recommend that you go with Shenandoah. You don't have to do this every year, because the drainage systems don't fill up that much, as you might see in the inspection reports. You can inspect, a portion of your drainage system, every year, and then probably do a maintenance clean out once every 5 years, because that's pretty much when they start to fill up with siltation. But other than that, for this first round of cleaning, you're going to be cleaning a good amount of structures. It's been 2 years since we did that inspection. So typically we recommend any structures that have more than 3 inches of silt in their structures to be vacuumed out. So at the time, I counted about 33 structures. 2 years later, there may be more, but still it's, Shenandoah has a price to do as a 43, Christian?
43, yes.
So I think that's pretty good deal. So we recommend you go with that. They will provide. I've asked them to make sure they provide the tickets when they dispose of the gallons of water to the facilities that are authorized to accept this material. You have a record of where that material went. That's very important for reporting purposes with the NPDES permit program that the village has. So with that, I'll just leave it for any questions or comments or.
And any questions for Mr. Rubio? Yes. Vice Chair.
So when are we proposing to get this done?
Okay, so if the committee approves it tonight, it'll go to the next village council meeting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's when you vote to approve Shenandoah to start the work. Once that's approved, you sign the proposal, and they'll schedule a time to come out. We probably want to see how they do their work so we'd like to have an inspector out to make sure that they're cleaning what they said they're cleaning. But again, we've seen their work a lot, so it's a good outfit. But so by the next council meeting, if you approve their price proposal, I can probably before the council meeting contact them to see when can they start, and following the approval of their contract, so that you can have that before you vote.
And then my other question is, Christia, we just had Miami-Dade County out here do some of this, or did something.
Yeah.
So does it make sense to do this right away, or being that Miami-Dade just did whatever they did? Or did Miami-Dade just put a Band-Aid on it and then?
No, Miami-Dade County cleaned their storm drains. They didn't clean ours. We have
Oh,
some too.
okay.
Yeah,
So
they
they didn't
there's-
come and they didn't do ours. They didn't
No,
touch
they didn't
ours.
do ours.
Yeah,
Okay.
because there's about 3 county roads that go through the
Right.
village.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then Northeast Second Avenue is one of them, and North
Right.
Miami Avenue is another one. So they got pretty significant drainage on those roads.
Right.
Okay.
And they are always having to clean those because those are they
Mhm.
fill a lot. And those are on Northeast Second
Right.
and 90th. That's all Miami-Dade County, but
Mhm.
ours are throughout the village.
Okay. Got it.
And so the first round of cleanup will be done this year. If this goes past and go, we'll still have time before hurricane and
That,
Yeah,
It's
it's a good time to do it. I mean, you want to do it just before hurricane
for
season,
hurricane.
to be on the, running on ground zero. But I think we're still early in the game. So, and as long as residents, do a good job of, raking their leaves, trying to make sure they don't end up in your drains, because they'll clog your drains during a storm event, and you're thinking you're flooding, but you're flooding because your drains are being clogged by leaves. But if we all do a good job of picking up our yard debris, which I think that they pretty much do, because I don't see any lawns exposed with dirt out there in the village. I mean, the residents do a pretty good job for the most part of maintaining the lawns, but the leaves can be a problem during a storm when they start collecting along the drains.
Okay. And then my last question, if I may, Chair, is Christia, I don't have the budget in front of me, but based on, where are we taking this from?
we're going to take that from Public Works.
Okay,
And we have the funds for that.
we have the funds? Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. So, any more questions? Does anybody in the committee has any questions before I open it to the public? Any comments from the public? Let's open up. I see no hands. And okay, so Mr. Rubio, thank you very much for being here
Thank
with
you,
us.
and welcome. It's the first time I meet you. So.
So, okay, do I have
So I just need the authorization to go ahead and pay this amount, since this exceeds my spending authority. And then we presented this to council.
So I would motion to bring this to the full council.
Okay, perfect. I have a motion. Any seconds?
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chair.
Perfect. So, do I have a
Roll
Roll
call.
call.
roll call?
Roll call.
Madam Clerk, please.
Member Nickerson,
Yes.
Vice Roman,
Yes.
Chair Perella.
Yes,
Motion passes 3-0.
perfect. Thank you, Mr. Rubio.
Thank you, Orlando.
Thank you,
Council.
Orlando.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
night. Okay, we're moving to F3, which is the FPL lighting pilot program. We were planning to have Mr. Lasso here. I saw him earlier, but I think he couldn't stand this long. This
I
late.
think he moved on.
So, yeah.
Um,
But Ms. Alou, I mean, we went around, we looked at lighting
Right.
that they proposed. We're a little confused because then he sent a list of the light post and the light fixture, and we couldn't understand whether they were asking us to actually look at the whole light fixture, or just the light bulb. So.
Right. Well, what I do know is that we're only getting the light, the bulb.
Right, exactly.
All we want, but I wanted to ensure that he understood that, and he was going to come and kind of describe it, because when I initially brought this to council last year in 2019, we had some options, but then they've added another option more recently, a more yellow lighting that we went to see, me and the chair went to see separately. And we wanted to bring Mr. Lazo before the committee just so he could kind of talk about this and answer any questions. I mean, they still haven't come to the point where they're ready to put the lights in for us. I think that the coronavirus has created even more of a lag time for that, for the execution of the pilot. But I thought it would be a good opportunity, and the chair clearly had questions and wanted to get more information from FPL to find out about what the lighting program would be. But sadly, he's moved or went on, so perhaps I can talk to him tomorrow and see if he can provide some information that I can disseminate to you all.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Any questions? No, we're all good? Okay, so then F4, tracking report is, can I have a motion to move these to the next meeting, since there's not much on the tracking report? There's a lot of other stuff that is inactive and this and that, so how we,
Just the way you did it, you asked for a motion, so somebody can just make the motion and then there'll be a second.
okay.
I'll motion.
Thank you. We usually don't second. We usually don't motion to move it to the next. We usually just decide as the council, but we can do that. Do we have to do
We motion.
It can be a motion to table. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Vice Chair, do we all in favor say aye? We don't roll call this though?
I mean, we typically we'll table the, but we agree upon it.
Yeah, we agree. We come into agreement.
Yeah.
I'll second that motion to table until the next meeting.
Perfect.
Do we want to do it all in favor say aye, Mr. Chair? Just to.
All in favor say aye.
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 Okay, hearing any no's?
No.
We're good. So now let's talk about parks. And because we have went around with NEAT Miami for the beautification project of our parks. And
I have a quick question. Was that on the tracking report?
no.
Okay, because it's not on the agenda. I mean, I think it's great that we should,
Right,
but it's not on the agenda.
right.
Oh,
So
yeah, we should just motion that when we did the agenda. It's not so it's okay. It's okay. We can I'll motion it. But so when we do approval of the agenda, Mr. Chair, at that point in time, before we approve the agenda, you want to say, okay, I want to make an addition to the agenda, and then
Add it.
the agenda with the added addition. Right now, I'd like to make a motion to add to the agenda a discussion on parks.
perfect.
I'll second.
Okay.
You want to do all in favor?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Thank you. And yes, if Mrs. Alou can, she did a very little report of capture every single thing that the people from NEAT said.
Mm-hmm.
So if you
I can,
tell
I don't
us.
mind giving a synopsis. Yes, with Chairperson Perella, I met with Miami-Dade County Parks and NEAT Streets, which is a tree organization in Miami. We walked through all of the village's parks properties and did an assessment, a review of existing landscape, footprints and patterns, and talked about the renovation and refreshing of those parks. They said we had some pretty good layout, but we needed some work. So they made some recommendations. I put all of those recommendations into a memo. I reviewed it with the group as well as Councilperson Perella, and then I presented it to you all. But it was a great start. This group will assist us with the architectural design for those parks. They encourage us to have a community meeting first before they start, and they would attend before they start making plans, though, just because we want to ensure that everybody who is interested and has a stake has an opportunity to have their input. So I know Councilperson Perrella will be planning a workshop or something, but with that, the Parks project it's got a lot of energy, and I know that the Councilperson Roman, who chairs the tree board, is also involved in that. The tree board has some things that they're tasked with that will clearly impact some of the tree issues and landscaping that we're seeing that will come from the parks meeting. So I'm sure there will be some overlap also with resiliency and other projects for the village. So it's an exciting start, and we're moving forward with all of our key players, and we'll see what comes of it. But I am excited about it. I know Councilperson Perrella walked those El Portal streets with us and got a chance to see some things, and so it has even made some suggestions about some trees as well. So it's a good start, and I'll keep you apprised of everything that comes from these next steps. But I know that a community meeting is next.
Yes, and they also, go ahead, Mrs. Roman.
So one of the things that was discussed at the tree board meeting was, and I think Robert Ruano is the one who probably brought it up because I wasn't aware, but we don't own all of our parks. Our parks are not deeded. So for instance, the nature trail, we don't have a deed for that. And not even the Little Estates Park. So if we don't have a deed for those parks, I don't see, us moving forward with, putting any monies into them until that step is taken first. So my suggestion is that we try to get deeds from the county so they can vacate the right of way and then give us the deed to those parks so that we can own the parks.
There's some, Mr. Lawyer, there's some procedure, anything we have to do when it comes to that the village? Because we just found out on the last
I'm not
board
sure.
meeting.
I'm not sure I understand. I mean, if I'm understanding what Councilperson Roman is saying, is that the village has park space that the public has access to purely because of an easement, but the village doesn't have actual title to the property.
Exactly.
Correct.
So I mean, I would have to look at the instruments, but what is the question that you want me to address?
So we're looking at, I guess and I'm sorry, Chair, were you asking what is the procedure for us?
What is the next step for us to
take over the deeds?
Take over the park,
Okay.
the deeds of the parks,
Well, I mean,
May I also say something about that? We're also part of the Miami-Dade County Parks Master Plan. So we need to look at that.
Right,
because they're going to do this work for free. These are their parks.
yeah, the short answer is I don't know sitting here right now. I mean, I'd have to look at the individual instruments to see, to see how these instruments are recorded and why is it that the village, under what a particular easement, has access to it. That's not what I'm accustomed to. Usually the public property that's currently owned by the public is either surplus property that's acquired or somebody dies or bequeaths the property or donates the property to the municipality with a strict covenant that it's going to remain public park purpose. I'm not used to seeing deeds where the owner still retains ownership of the property, but simply allows the public an easement to use the spaces as a park. So I'd have to look at the instruments.
So-
but you said if they're all, go ahead.
Okay, so to look further, because I think, when I looked at the parks for El Portal through Neat Streets and through the county, and this was quite a few months ago when I first joined the board, for Neat Streets board, El Portal didn't have the amount of parks that I thought we had. And so after, when we had the discussion with Robert Ruano at the board meeting, it just all made sense as to why it is that the county did not have that, those as parks,
Mount, right.
designated as parks.
Again,
I mean, there are parks, but it's just that we don't have the hold the deed for them, and it's something to recognize as like, I don't know if it's getting grants or getting anything for parks. That's the only, you know, thing that would affect us not holding a deed.
Correct. Yep. So the only reason we received the deed for the nature trail is because that was through the community foundation, and they don't care that we didn't own the park or that we don't have the deed to the park. But if we wanted to get monies from Dade County or, you know, from the state, we will not be able to get monies for these parks unless we own the parks. We have the deeds to the parks. We also can't name them. So right now, you know, I think we had a discussion in March about naming the parks and giving them names. Well, we can't name them if they're not ours.
well, I guess the things to do, which I'm adding to the list, would simply be to look at what we believe is in the inventory in the village, and then just simply do a quick title search on the ownership. It's just simply looking at either the folio or the legal description and see what transfer instrument is there, and if there's an easement, I can look at it to see what it says. But like I said, I've not come across a situation where there is a private owner or even a corporate owner for that matter, and then they just simply grant a municipality or a county.
No, they're not privately owned. It's Miami-Dade who has that land.
Oh, okay, so now
It's Dade County land.
Okay, so I completely misunderstood what you
No,
said.
no, it's not privately owned.
So basically, it's still governmental property.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, I got you. But it's not. It's titled by Dade County, and Dade
Correct.
County is allowing us to use it as part of our parks.
That is correct.
I
Yeah.
did not get that. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. So
That's okay. Well, that's very interesting since we had to go through this whole exercise about the nature trail expansion when we were trying to get the land from the school,
From the school, exactly. Yeah.
you know, but okay, we'll have to look into that as to
yeah, and
how
Christina talked to Robert and Norman talked to Robert because he is very well aware of all of this. And so, you know, it makes sense why it's only the tot lot. And then I think it's only the tot lot and Sherwood Forest Park that
And the
are the
Indian
only two
Mount.
that are parks. Well, the Indian Mount is
It's not a park,
It's
but
not a
it's yeah,
historic
right.
site, right? So yeah, so I think that's definitely, since we are discussing this, that's something I did want to bring up to you, Christina, is to let's look into that first, because we have the monies from our developers to spend on parks, but if we don't own the parks, I say we need to first get that step done and then put in the monies after.
Right. Well, it is a big project, and adding, you know, going through with Gabriela and Michael from NEAT Miami. It was, you know, I understood how much in need of you know, of beautification or you know, or to redo our parks. So, but yeah, it's very exciting, and hopefully we can, you know, thank God we have the funds and the funds, and we can move forward with this. And all the recommendations they did seem pretty, you know, doable. We also have to, throughout the park, which we don't have, we have to comply with ADA. As far as like the little ramps and the bench, we don't have none of that in our parks. So there's a lot of work to do. So yeah, perfect. So I guess we're all done for tonight. If there's no more questions, you have anything to say, Vice Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. No, I have nothing to say as far as this goes, as far as the questions or anything on the agenda. No, but just remember before we adjourn, you just have to go to good and welfare just to make sure anybody else from the audience or anything has anything to say. But-
Okay.
And then you ask for a motion to adjourn, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, perfect. So we go to good and welfare. Anybody in the audience? Nobody's there. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Okay, do I have
I'll
a second?
second. I'll second.
Perfect.
All in favor, Mr. Chair?
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, we all done for tonight? Is that it?
And your meeting is adjourned at what
Time.
time, Mr. Chair?
Oh, it is the meeting for Public Work. It was adjourned at 11:21 p.m. on
Perfect.
July 7th.